The road to Belleville is about a road trip that starts at my home in East Highland, California, and travels northeast into the heart of the San Bernardino Mountains. The route is almost entirely on California Highway 38. The journey ends in the Holcomb Valley, which is north and above Big Bear Lake. This is where the gold rush town of Belleville thrived in the early 1860s after Bill Holcomb discovered gold there. The trip is 60 miles long, and the history along the way travels back in time, more than 200 years. There are 13 historical stops on the road to Belleville, and they are marked out on this map. I'll make a short video for each stop to showcase the people and places that pioneered the rich history of the San Bernardino Mountains and foothills.
Stop 8 on the road to Belleville is about Barton Flats and the San Bernardino Redlands pioneer Dr. Ben Barton. Traveling east on Highway 38, we come to the Barton Flats area, which is about 4 miles past Stop 7, the story of Forsey Creek. The highlighted section in this map is the flat bench known as Barton Flats in the heart of the San Bernardino Mountains. In the middle of Barton Flats is a visitor center on Highway 38. Ben Barton was born in South Carolina on June 8, 1823, to an old colonial family. Ben went to medical school in Lexington, Kentucky, where he studied medicine and became a physician. After graduation, Ben practiced medicine in Alabama as well as Texas. While in Texas, Ben met and married Eliza Bright. They were living in El Paso when they made the decision to move to Southern California. Their first stop was in El Monte, where 2 of their sons were born. After 3 years, the Bartons moved 45 miles east to Old San Bernardino. In 1857, the Barton family moved to San Bernardino. The Mormons that came from Utah in 1851 purchased the San Bernardino Ranchero from the Lugo family and built a settlement called Fort San Bernardino. Ben built a small adobe building in San Bernardino that became his doctor's office, a pharmacy, and even a post office. Ben had become the first postmaster of the young town. In 1858, Dr. Barton was elected as the superintendent of the schools in the new county of San Bernardino. In the early 1860s, Ben represented the 1st District in the California State Assembly. He was a man of many talents and was a great servant to the people in the San Bernardino Valley. The Bartons arrived in San Bernardino about the time the Mormon leader Brigham Young had recalled the Mormons to go back to Utah. Ben purchased 640 acres from them in today's Loma Linda and Redlands. The old Assistencia building was on Barton's new property, and he moved his family into the rundown building. The Assistencia was a rebuilt version of the San Gabriel Mission Estancia that was built by the missionaries in 1819. Dr. Barton built a kiln and started making bricks for a new home he was building near the Assistencia. When the huge brick home was finished, it was 3 stories tall and was the first brick home ever built in Redlands. Here's a drone shot of the home today. The home was known as the Barton Villa, and the doctor renovated the style of it twice. The boulder on the villa grounds tells a brief history. This drone video shows the grounds of the villa today. There's a preschool in the back, and the back of the Asistencia can also be seen. When I was young, this home had fallen into disrepair, but fortunately, it was purchased by an owner who invested in returning the villa to its former glory. On his property, Dr. Barton planted a vineyard and established the first winery in the region. Ben planted orchards of different kinds and used the water from the Mill Creek Zanja that flowed through his property. The Bartons raised sheep on their land, and in 1862 there was a huge flood in California that devastated the San Bernardino Valley, followed immediately by a drought. In search of pastures to feed the sheep, the Bartons moved the sheep up the Santa Ana River Canyon into the mountains and found grasses to feed them on a high bench that is known today as Barton Flats. When the Civil War started, the county of San Bernardino was in upheaval. 2/3 of the people in Southern California were from the South, and many were sympathetic to the Confederate cause. The gold rush town of Belleville, as well as downtown San Bernardino, were known to be hotbeds of Confederate supporters. The Southern California district of the Union Army set up Camp Carlton, just southwest of San Bernardino, to keep an eye on the rebel activity. Being from the South, it was expected that Dr. Barton might support the Confederacy, but when an incident happened that tested his loyalties, his actions made it clear who he was loyal to. While the Bartons' men were grazing their sheep in the mountains, they encountered suspicious Confederate sympathizers that had moved into the area. Word was sent down to Ben about the men hiding out, and he turned the information into the authorities, who sent agents to the mountains to investigate. The strangers gave suspicious reasons for their presence and then quickly moved on. In 1881, Dr. Barton started selling off his Redlands property to Judson and Brown. The two men were the developers of Redlands, which became a city in 1888. Pictured here is Frank Brown, who was responsible for the building of the Big Bear Dam, as well as subdividing property in Redlands. A few years before Dr. Barton died, the Bartons left the Barton Villa in Redlands and moved back to downtown San Bernardino. The San Bernardino home was at 656 North D Street. That address today is a parking lot. Dr. Ben Barton left a huge legacy in the San Bernardino Valley. He was involved in many endeavors in his lifetime. Ben was a doctor, postmaster, pharmacist, educator, politician, inventor, farmer, rancher, philanthropist, family man. Like so many of our San Bernardino mountain pioneers, he was born on the East Coast and migrated to the West Coast, where he lived a full life and died. In researching Ben Barton, I found different dates for his death, but his gravestone clearly shows he died on December 31st, 1898. The day of his funeral was raining, yet huge crowds came out to say farewell. The top of his casket could not be seen for all the flowers covering it. I found Ben's tombstone in the Mountain View Cemetery in San Bernardino. Several other Bartons are buried there. This drone footage shows Barton Road running near his grand old home in Redlands. Dr. Ben Barton's legacy has been established all over the San Bernardino Mountains and Valley, and his memory lives on the road to Belleville.